this episode of the quarantine day, whatever it is for us in Illinois here. So thank you for coming out. So we're going to kind of hang out a little bit and talk a little bit about what the plan is, because a lot of and just give people a little bit of more time to log in and sign up. Just for anybody who's new to our Facebook Live, I'm Nancy Reyes. I own Foyer Canine in Elmhurst, Illinois.
And I'm Joanne Soike, and I own For Better For Worse in Rock Island, Illinois.
So one of the goals for this webinar or Facebook Live is to talk a little bit about what to do, how to have harmony at home. And it's not specifically about the dogs or entertaining your dog. It really is a lot of us are working at home now. A lot of us have a spouse or a significant other with us at home, or some of us have kids, and some of us feel that. Do you get audio? Can you hear me?
John Saravia.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hi, John.
God, long time no see. You have no audio. Oh, make sure you unmute your.
Oh no, wait. Somebody said they're only getting audio. Can you guys see us? Okay, Rhonda says yes.
Okay.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hey, Kim, how are you? Melissa, hey, with the bestest Droverman. Sorry, Joanne, but she does. If you see Newton,
well,
he's Newton's very handsome. He's always very styling. So you have both. All right, awesome, fabulous. All right, fantastic. Hi, Linda. Hi, everybody. Wow, you can tell a lot of people are home.
Everyone's bored.
It's great. It's great. Okay, so really quickly, I wanted to chat with you about what this whole goal for the Harmony at Home. Like I said, a lot of us are home with our dogs and our significant others and children and everything. And I think we're trying to keep our dogs busy, but one of the things we really have to think about, this hopefully isn't going to last very long, or it's not going to last forever. So we have to be careful about what habits we're teaching our dogs during this time that we're home, right? Because eventually we'll go back to work, the schedule will be the same. So going on these long walks or long adventures isn't going to be the norm, right? It's going to be different. And this could set up some of our dogs for some difficult times going forward, right? So you want to be mindful of that keeping your dog entertained all day isn't the goal here. And what we want to kind of give you is kind of a way to kind of navigate the whole being home with your children and spouse and everything else. So that was the goal about that we wanted to kind of give you. A lot of people are talking about keeping the dog busy. It's like, well, we don't have to. Most of the time, if we're at work, the dogs are sleeping. So we really want to make sure that we kind of set up the system or the new normal for now to be able to transition back to the what was before. So that's kind of how we wanted to kind of approach it. So one of the things we wanted to talk about is physical stimulation and mental. So a lot of us are starting to take dogs out for walks. A lot of our clients that are in the city see that there's so many people out there walking their dogs, like so many, because they're home, so they're getting out and walking the dog a lot. So you have to remember your dogs aren't used to being walked all the time, and so you want to monitor that a little bit, right? You want to take them out, give them some physical exercise, but you also want to give them some mental exercise too, whether in the house. And like today we had snow. I don't know other people other people that are probably got more snow than we did. I think Joanne got more snow than we did. So
still snowing.
Anyway, so that's the importance of Still snowing. Well, we're almost done. We're done, so we don't have that much, but still getting a little dusting. So, physical activity versus mental. So you want to make sure you give your dog both of those things while you're home and while you're working from home. And so what we want you to take away from, and you could, and please feel free to ask questions, is what you want to do and how you want to set up your dog's schedule now that you're home most of the day or all day in some cases, right? So mental stimulation gets them more tired. Those of you who do nose work know that that's true. So we're going to do a little nose work demo, and for those of you who don't do nose work or aren't familiar with it, kind of how to introduce it and kind of keep your dogs busy while you're in the house. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about work. We're going to show you a video on how you can kind of fine tune your dog's skills, and also give your dogs a break during the day so they're not up and out all day long if they're not used to it, because it does become a problem. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about crate training and how to do that if your dog doesn't settle. A lot of times, like my dogs do settle when I'm home and working from home. They do eventually just lie down and rest, but there are dogs that don't. So if they're not used to being in a crate or teaching a place, we're going to go over some of those tips. Um, so the first thing we wanted to talk about a little bit was, oh yeah, working on, how many of your dogs are barking at the mailman now more because you're home, or and things like that, or looking out the window, or doing a little bit more poor behavior. And I had talked with Rue never settles. Um, does he never settle when you're home, Lisa, or does he just, is that just how he rolls? So that's an interesting I would, so if he doesn't settle because you're home, or does he not settle because that's how he is? Does he settle when you're gone? Which would be um, a good question. So one of the things for mailman barking at the door, which uh, they probably don't do during the day, or if they're not, or if they're out and about, is teaching them to come away from the door, right? Recall them back to the barking constantly. Yeah, teaching them how to come away from the door. But you want to do that when the mailman's not there, so they get used to coming back and getting a reinforcement, right? You can give them a treat, or let them go outside, or play, or something like that, because you don't want them to develop that a new behavior, or a nuisance behavior that you didn't have before, which is the concern, right? Do you have anything to add, Joanne?
Yeah, if they already have a good skill of being able to come away, it's really nice. Well, if you have the ability to see. So I have a really big window in the front of my house. I also have a camera to look when I'm at work, and I could tell around 10:30 every day the mailman comes, because I get these alerts that my dogs are barking. So now I can sort of see him coming. My desk is kind of in the front room, and so I can sort of call them away and say, hey, come here, come sit. Here's some cookies. Oh, look, there's the mailman. Sit, sit, sit. And so it sort of helps them get through that without starting a barking fit, so they don't get a chance to rehearse that behavior.
Right.
And it's hard when they do it and you're not home anyway. But I know we've had a lot more of it watching all the dogs walking by. So there's just been a lot more window stimulation than there normally is.
Mhm. And one tip that I've used, those of you who come to my facility, there's a film that you can buy for the windows, that you can do it halfway on the window, and so they can't see out, but you can get sunlight in. I did get that for my business, so that my dogs aren't barking out the window at the facility. And that helped actually a lot. They never got to practice that behavior, and they never got to be barking out the window, so it never developed. And at my house, they really don't have access to the window, so it's a little different. So, but that's an option too in the interim. Hopefully, this situation won't last very long, but you can. So many of you, if you can work to call them away from the window and call them, there's nothing happening. So it'll be much easier to call them away when there is something happening, right? Susan Wooden, nuisance behavior. My puppy started eating poop since all this started. I still have to go to work. Others are home. but others are home. Others, Susan, do you mean others like husband, children are home, and is eating his own poop or other dogs' poop, which is something to think about too. And it started when so maybe the puppy might be feeling the stress in your house if there's any. So you might want to think about that. But yeah, if you still have to go to work, but others are home, um, is he eating his own poop or other dogs' poop? That's important, kind of important to know,
And you say puppy, but how old would be another question.
right?
And sort of where did he come from? Other family members are home. They didn't used to be.
Okay. And how old is your puppy, like Joanne said? And where'd you get him from, a breeder or rescue? Those are all really good questions there.
I know Lisa had said too, Rue never settles when she's home. I don't have a camera up, but his toys are always all over the place. So I think Lisa too, just knowing your dog, you have a very high energy dog. And it's not so much about settling, it's just about he just plays all the time. So it's good to maybe give him a break, especially while you are home. And we'll talk about that in a little bit when we do some crate training stuff, but we're actually going to cover that topic, so I'm going to save that.
Mm-hmm. Other family members. So he's eating his own poop. He's 8 months from a good breeder, and he just recently started. So I'm going to tell you, Susan, being there myself with a couple of dogs, the only way, and I know it's hard with other family members, is picking it up immediately so that they don't get a chance to practice. And I'm telling you, as difficult as that is, it works. I have had 2 dogs that have had that issue, and then just a lot early on, especially when there was a puppy. I had a beagle puppy that did it early on. I made sure the poop was picked up every time, and fortunately for me, I was able to. She stopped doing it, and for many years, never ever tried to eat it again after that. So you have to be very meticulous about it, but it works. It really, really works. Just pick it up as they potty. And speaking from experience, trying to get my husband to pick it up right away is very challenging. So I get it about the other parts of the family, but you really have to pick it up so that the dog doesn't practice that behavior, right?
Yeah, it ends up being one of those things like counter surfing, and once they start it, it's a readily available thing, so it's really hard to get them to stop doing.
Right.
I will share one thing that I have had decent success with a lot of clients, is Fig Newtons. So I would say it probably 85% of the people that have tried them, it works. For a Frenchie, you could probably do half a day, but something in them, for whatever reason, the dogs don't like to eat their own poop anymore.
Amy, shutting up while you're on a conference call. Yeah. So I actually am doing a little experiment myself. I have one of my dogs in the crate, and she's currently eating a Kong, or I had a frozen Kong, and she's been very quiet working on it. But I've done a lot of that with my dogs. I don't conference call a lot from home, but I do talk on the phone a lot from home. So they're used to that. But I wanted to see how she would do, and she's by herself without the other dogs. So kind of preparing, like a lot of times when you're on a conference call, you know what time the conference call is. So you would have things kind of lined up and ready when that conference call is getting ready to come on, right? So that helps. And the other thing was Newtons, because Fig Newtons are gross.
I know.
Hey, I love Fig Newtons.
I like Fig Newtons too.
And Natasha said pineapple makes puppy poop taste. And it really depends on how. And you're lucky, Susan, that your dog is young. It's only 8 months old, so you should be able to nip it in the bud and stop the behavior. Because I did. My beagle was young when she started doing that, and I was able to. And she lived a very long life. She lived to be 18, and she's didn't go back to doing it again. It was really wonderful, but it was a pain going through it. Just just saying, and I get it. All right. So a couple of things that we're going to talk about is Amy wanted to talk a little bit about um, being quiet while you're on a conference call. So that requires some planning. And I'm going to be honest, having like Kongs or stuff for them to chew on when you're on conference calls is really important, and kind of putting them where they need to be so they're not all over, and being able to then plan for those times so they get used to being quiet when the conference calls come on. Over time, they start to get a little more calm. And again, this is a new thing for them, right? They hear people, they hear different sounds, especially if you're having a conference call. So it's really, really challenging. So I get that. All right. All right. So I'm going to show one of the things we can work on in a small space without a lot of is recalls. That's one of those behaviors that are life-saving things, and that you wanted to, well, I'm going a little out of order. Sorry, Joanne. So yeah, so is recalls, and you can have a small space and you can work on that all the time, especially if you have a young puppy, and then eventually move on to bigger things. But you know, it's more than what we can cover in here. So we're gonna show you a video that we did, that Melanie Earps did with her puppy. He was at the time 4 or 5 months old. He was very young yet. He was so small, and this is an exercise how she started working on a recall when she didn't have a lot of time, and stuff that she can do at home. Oh, stop that, start that. Okay. All right. So I will show the video really quick, and I will take Joanne and I out because you So we're back now. Okay, so we're back. Um, so that's one. Yeah, Melanie. Yeah, he was just a baby at that time. But that's how you start kind of, and you can work on that at home, and you can if you have a bigger space, of course, further distances and things like that. So you can kind of incorporate that. If you have a more mature dog, then you can add distractions to that environment, right? You can add stuff they have to pass by, things, a toy they have to leave, food they have to pass by to come to you, right? You can make it progressively challenging to get to where the dog can pass by anything to be able to come back to you. And that's kind of how you start it. And for those dogs that might decide they want to grab whatever's out there, food or whatever, I put the food or something in a container they can't have, so they have to come through, come past it to be able to get to me and get the reinforcement until they're able to pass it without any problem. Oh, it came through. Oh, Katie. Yeah. So basically, Melanie had some treats, and she was in a room. She threw a treat away from her. So 4 went to get the treat, and then she said she used the recall. 4 come. When he came to her, she grabbed the collar and reinforced him. The toss away is just to get him to get away from her, and also help drive him back to her when she called him, right? because you want that, you want to be able to do that. So again, you have a treat, you toss it away, you call the puppy or the dog, he comes to you, you grab the collar, and you reinforce him from coming. That's basically the video. Got it? And then, and so that is something you can also do when you are when the dog is more advanced and it doesn't have any problem with that. You can then use distractors where the dog has to come past some distractors to get back to you, right? Because the thing is that for that exercise, it was very sterile because the puppy was young. 4 was only a few months old. So you want to make sure as the dog gets older and more mature that they can leave anything. Like for me, for my lab, I have to work on her walking past food to get to me. She may not decide to do that, right? That might be tough for her. So those are some skills you can work on at home to progress your dogs on that, right? Easy in the beginning, and then a little more challenging.
I'm trying to share the YouTube link here, but I can't seem to type on here.
Yeah.
Do you have it to share, Nance?
I can. Yes, I do. Hold on. Yes, I do. Hold on. I will.
So while she's looking for that, Kim, I see Kim says, I have a grown Chihuahua who hates being caught. Typical for Chihuahuas. There's a skill I could definitely be working on. She's suspicious about taking things from my hands. So what you can do is just drop it right on the floor in front of you. Just drop a couple, and then once she eats a couple from the ground and you don't reach out to grab her, that's the big key. If she's worried about it, make sure you don't actually grab her. And then you can let her eat a couple off the floor and then eat one from your hand. Then let her run away again and do over. But I will tell you, there's no quicker way to get some, duck and weave moves from a dog than to grab that collar as soon as they come in. If they don't like it, they will always stay just out of reach.
Yep. And you might want to work on that separately, Kim. Like have her sit on your lap, grab her collar, and pay her for that. If she's comfortable on your lap without adding any motion, just grab her collar, cookie, reinforce that, just that piece of it without adding all the rest of it if she sits on your lap. And just get her used to having her collar handled and being reinforced for that, right? And then Amy came up with a good teacher to jump up in your arms as a trick, and that's what I mean. Maybe does she like to go up on your lap? Does she enjoy that? So that would be interesting. That would be good to know if she likes being handled otherwise, but I probably think she doesn't, since she doesn't want to be caught or whatever. So I would just have when you're sitting down playing, petting her, collar grab cookie, just as you grab her collar. So that way, I had min pins before, and I had to work on that because one of the min pins was kind of bitey. Lucy was when I first got her was quite a challenge. So that's what we did. She'd sit on my lap and I grab her collar and she got used to that. Then eventually I added more. And then after a while I was able to handle her without really much of a problem.
And Connie asks, if they're challenged by distractions, should you put a long line on? If you're working on it at home, I say don't. And Nancy, I don't know if you'd agree or not, but yeah, there's a point for it, but I would much rather try and manage my distractions, right? So maybe it's something in a big container that the dog can't actually pick up, or, I've tethered something somewhere they can't run off with it. But really what we want the dogs to be able to make a good choice. And the whole point of come is when they don't have a leash on. So if you're practicing with a long line on all the time, it's either too hard for the dog or the distraction's just too great, and they'd rather have that than come back to you anyway. So I always like to give them their choice and see what you get.
Dave, this is a good segue to our next demo that Joanne's going to do. The problem, Dave, is going out and setting hides and putting is that Yes, there's been some people I've known that have done that. Actually in Joanne's neck of the woods, where they could do a group, and people do that sort of thing. But the problem is leaving the hides out. I know Jill, one of our instructors, has found at a park by her house has found hides. So it can get a little challenging that way. So I think it's probably good to do if you have people that you know and that are near in your area and kind of do that collectively. I think that would be easier than just doing a group where there's because I think the people who were doing that ran into a little trouble too, uh, because the hides were gone missing. People are picking them up, so it got a little nutty that way. And you could do that through a Facebook. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Speaking of hides left behind. Hmm.
Val said I played collar game with my 20-month-old GSD, and he's great on lead. But when I try it with him off lead, it's a no go. So Val, it probably means that you pushed too fast. So I would do a lot more distraction work inside the house or outside in your yard before you know what I mean? I think that's what happens is when you push too fast. Like I had to get Jive to be able to leave food to come to me. And it's still very challenging for her because she likes food a lot. The shepherds were a lot easier. They're very needy, and so they didn't want to leave. Um, and then as Amy said, make sure that the collar grab isn't the end of the game, right? They get to still go out and play. So if you have and Val has multiple dogs, you can grab them, play, release them, they can go out and play, so that the collar grab doesn't end whatever they're doing. So
Yep. So that's sort of a just a segue back into what we were talking about, right? If you guys have a desk and your dogs are out, is a really good time to have that jar of cookies and say, "Hey, dog, come here!" Right? They come up to the desk, they get a couple of cookies. Okay, now go do whatever it is that you were doing. So it's just a way to reinforce that recall.
right. All right. So some of you, we're gonna do. Joanne's gonna do a quick for those of you who are on, which there's not too many of you, but that are on that don't do nose work. But kind of how to just kind of start dogs for those of you who are new to nose work or don't do it on a regular basis. Joanne's going to do a little short demo of how to get a dog started and how you kind of work through some of the stuff. And then also, I'm gonna while she's getting set up, I also want to talk a little bit about those of you who have advanced dogs or whatever. There's nothing wrong with going back to pairing odor and being able to uh, work some of these fun exercises, especially those of you who are at the higher levels, right? Because we tend to forget about doing those things and going back to basics and foundations. And those of you, especially at the elite level, most certainly want to go back to that fast, fun, happy training times when you are working your dogs, especially in the house, because we forget, right? We forget to do that, especially those of you who are advanced. So Joanne is going to do a really quick demo on nose work. She puts food, in this case, Noah has odor, and he goes in there and finds and she pays him for putting his head in the box. And this exercise also is really good for those of you who are more advanced training, and that because especially those that are so much more advanced. For those of you who are just starting, you're going to put food, they're going to get paid, and they're going to move along, and then you're going to just search and then pay them for being at the box, right? And then as you progress, you can make it a little challenging. You can put a box on top. Noah's a little more experienced dog, so you can put a box on top of a box so they have to really search for it and make it that way so that he has to really work to get it, right? And this is very, very, it's great. It's very mentally stimulating for the dog. So very good. Noah is a wonderful, Noah's a wonderful demo dog. He's loving it. Nice job. All right. And now she's going to put it in where it's a little more challenging for him. And you can toss the cookie away and then get him to look for it. So, hey, you guys, question: Yeah, and I'm telling you, those of you who are in more advanced, this is, and you can. Margie asked if there's yes. What you can do, Margie, is toss the treat away and have him drive back to source. Toss the treat away and have him drive back. So yes, it will help. You just got to make the hide pretty simple. Toss it away and then have him come back and work that with it. So we use it a lot for that, Margie. A lot for going back to source. You can put, yeah, if you haven't done nose work, you would put food in a box. If you have an experienced dog, you would put odor. But yes, food in a box, and it's always the same box that you're using to put odor in, and just moving things around and being able to give them that extra, being able to give them that skill to be able to drive back to source. Um, so yeah, Noah's a sweetie pie. But yeah, you would put food in a box. They would reinforce. You would move around, and you can make it more and more challenging. And Joanne is she tosses the food away, and then the dog can then come back and drive to the source of the odor, or to the box. So if you're by yourself, it's really helpful, right? All right. So it's very quick and easy. If you have any questions about that, those of you, those nose work folks, that's how we started dogs. But I'm telling a lot of our elite folks that, because sometimes the dogs start to slow down. So you want to keep that speed up by working this is really great. You can toss the treat away, have them drive back to the box, have the treat away, drive back to the box. So it's a really good exercise for that, especially for if you've been doing it a while. Um, I find that dogs can slow down a little bit when they, because we tend to work on all the hard problems and all the difficult, more challenging things, right? So we have a lot of fun doing that, and the dogs really love it. They really enjoy it. They have a great time on that. So that's pretty. The dogs find it very reinforcing. All right. So the next thing I wanted to kind of show you if and I know Melanie and I were talking about this yesterday because her dogs are now out all day long and they're not in the crates. So they're active and they're overtired and cranky and barky because they're not used to you being home all the time. So you have to remember that. So one of the things is for those of you, and there's a lot more people these days that are not crate training their dogs for whatever reason. I'm not sure when, because I sound like an old lady, but back in the day, everybody crate trained their dogs. These days, it's very, very rare. It's not very common. So you can use a crate or you can do a go to place if you have a bed or whatever. But it teaches them how to settle down. Lisa mentioned it, and Linda Raphael too, about the dogs barking constantly. You have to give them some downtime to be able to work on that stuff, right? You have to give them that break, nap, and all that. It's no different than a child. You wouldn't have the child up all day doing stuff. They would have a nap time, depending on the age. So dogs are no different. So I'm going to go over some tips on crate training your puppy or your dog. And even though my current dog that's in the crate is happily sitting in the crate because she's used to it, even though I'll be honest, my dogs are not crated. They're crated very, very rarely. They're only crated in the car, and they're crated when we go to dog shows anymore. Even my young dogs are no longer crated when I'm gone. However, I still want to make sure that they love the crate and it's still part of their life, because it's an important it's an important thing. And then now that everybody's home with their dogs, sometimes you might have to dust off that crate, bring them out so they can settle down. And it just gives them they just calm down and they just settle. And then that's what I mean. When you have a conference call, that might be the time to put them in the crate so they can settle down and take a nap. Because it is not okay for the dog to be up all day, amped up, and it just makes for, especially those of us who have multiple dogs, it could really make for cranky dogs. They get very testy with each other when they're overtired. So those are all kind of things to consider if you think it's okay. If you want to have your dogs out all day, I'd be the advocate for giving your dog breaks, right? My dogs naturally take a break because I
A normal
I don't
dog
spend a lot of time at home. Go ahead. Go ahead. Did you say something?
Sorry, you were sort of cutting out there. A normal dog sleeps 14 hours a day. Just so you guys know, that is the average for a dog. So 6 hours while we're gone at work is their time to sleep. So just like us humans, if they don't get sleep for a prolonged period of time, you can cause other issues, not just temper tantrums and crabbiness, but if you have a dog that's suffering from any kind of health issue, you really want to make sure that they do get their sleep and are able to rest.
And Dr. that tired dogs are more prone to injury, and that is absolutely right. Right? If they're up all day running around and stuff, they shouldn't be. You know what I mean? He's just in constant motion. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick demo on crate training with my little girl Jive, just to give you some tips on how to do it if you want to dust that off, or I'll go to place, a bed or whatever, even though it's harder to contain a dog in a bed if they're not used to it, right? So you might have to go back to the crate. And it could be a soft-sided crate or a metal crate. My dogs are fine in both of those. And that's, again, those of you who are people that are dog show people, your dog should be able to do both crates, soft and hard-sided. But I'm going to do a demo on a regular crate, a regular metal crate. Because it's just what most people have. So while I do that, Joanne will narrate.
Yep. So I am one of those people who has one dog who can't do a soft-sided crate. He has destroyed them. We're working on it. We keep testing him, but he is something else at this age. So there's Jive. You can see she has a nice Kong in there. What?
She already finished it.
Well, all right. So, Kongs are always just a great thing. You can prep them up the day before and give them to them to have some settle down time. I think we use bully sticks as well. So she has, Nancy has some cookies here. Jive clearly knows that she has. And so we like to sort of put a command on it, whatever you say, go kennel, go crate, crate up, doesn't matter the word. And when she goes in, you're watching Nancy actually reach into the crate and feed her while she's inside of that crate. Okay. We want to make sure that the food actually gets paid inside so the dog understands I'm getting the food while I'm in there. So she actually is going in and offering a sit because she knows she's going to get snacks that way.
She's very hungry.
Always. Watch your fingers. Okay. So, you can give her the free or the okay command, allow her to come out, and then we just keep repeating.
The other thing is, come on, Jive. Ready.
Yeah. So what she's doing here is she's trying to create a little bit more drive to take off. So as soon as I go in there, I'm going to get my cookie. It just makes that crate a little bit more exciting when we rev them up a little bit. Just a little bit of collar restraint. You ready? Okay, go kennel.
Quick. Girl. Good. All right. Okay. Go quick.
Good girly.
She's ridiculous.
She will do anything for her food.
Yes, she will.
So you can see it, even if you have a dog that's a little nervous about the crate or doesn't like the crate, you don't even have to shut the door there, right? It's just a matter of getting them to run in, get some rewards, run back out. And then as you work, you can run in, you can even toss a cookie in the crate, shut the door, open the door. You can keep it really small so the dog doesn't get stressed. But otherwise, if they are used to a crate, you can give them that Kong, you can give them a bully stick just to let them settle down in there. And that's a great way to transition them into a nice nap.
The other thing is, I just want you to know, a little bit of the banging of the plastic crate. It's slippery for her. So she's not real crazy about she's very cautious when she steps in. So I have had to really work on it. So she really wants to go in the crate when she was younger. And she still, every once in a while, if you saw when I was revving her up to go in there, she wasn't that quick about going in like my Shepherd is. But she's better than she was. So she wasn't crazy about the plastic, and she won't, the metal pans, really doesn't like those. So it's just some just different things. But she's able to go in the crate, settle, and be quiet, which is really important for me. Even though, again, I don't crate my dogs, they're able to settle. They lie down on the bed and they relax and all that stuff. How would you train a dog to stop flying when you open it? I have a Rottweiler that pushes us to the back of the wall often. What we were demoing, feeding in there and having them sit while the door's open, that is how you would work that, right? When you open, you would pay inside, and he'd be sitting in there with the door open until and he can't come out until he's invited out. So then what you would do is then shut the door if he tries to fly out and wait for him to sit until he's invited out, right? So that is kind of, because I can't, it's very dangerous for a few reasons. If they fly out of the crate, if you have a crate in the car like I do, flying out of the crate in the car will get them killed if you don't have a handle on them. Also, if you're at a dog show or whatever, that's not good. Nobody likes all those, the dog coming out. So you would definitely want to pay and just get him used to sitting in the crate with the door open and closing it if he tries to come out, right? And just time it that way.
So Linda, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Linda had another question is up from that. Her dog wasn't allowed in the living room when she's not home. Now that she is home, she hangs out in the living room and he barks at whatever he sees outside. So I lock myself out of the living room so he won't look out the window. So this is one of those situations, right? We don't want our dog's behavior to have to hold us hostage. I get it. And sometimes like you have to manage a situation, but if a dog is changing your actual behavior, that is definitely something you want to work on. So like Nancy mentioned before, if it's a visual thing, they do at, I think Home Depot, where? Amazon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A lot of people sell, you just look at stick-on window coverings, and it's just kind of like an icy shade that this sticks right on. You can pull it off, and the dog can't see out the window. That really helps remove that visual barrier for you. The other thing is, if you are just hanging out watching TV, you can work that recall. You can work a quiet. You can really, like I said, have that jar of cookies and just continue to work it. But the visual barriers there as well, if that's something that will help.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is give them some, like a Kong. I know some dogs can get resource guardy with like bully sticks or bones. But we when my puppies were young, I had Kongs in my fridge all the time, stuffed. I still do. I don't use them as much, but I do have them always available if I need some quiet time, and to have them sit in the bed or whatever, right? Sit if you're using a mat or a bed, they can get that bully stick or whatever, and they can sit in the bed and stay there. Like I said, she has, and I would agree with Debbie Hall about that's right. They have to stay in the crate until you ask them to come out, just like with Jive. You can come out when I give you the release word, okay. You can't fly out. I really worry about this. Like I said, in the car, because in the car, they're in a crate, and if they try to dart out, it could be very, very horrible. So, and the window stickers really do work because I'm using them at my job, because my beloved young male Shepherd loves barking more than life itself. So I took away one more place where he can shut up about it. Because he doesn't look, my dogs don't now, they can't see out the window, so they can't bark. And I did it halfway, so I still get sunlight and brightness, because I hate darkness, so I need the sunlight. So I just did it halfway where they can't see out, but the sun still comes in. It's great.
So looks like AJ says, my dog does know, but when I actually give the release, he bolts out. So that's something where you can find like you can actually use a Kong. You can use like a licky stick. If you have something like peanut buttery, something smeary, put it right there, let him lick it, and then just sort of guide him out as you give the okay. So he is interested in something instead of just flying out of that crate. Just helps that
Yeah.
transition. And the
The
transitions
other
can be
thing,
the hardest part. Doorways, crate openings. Dogs can be
yes.
really particular about the segue between one space to another.
Yeah. So the other thing, AJ, I might also recommend is he when he sits and ask him to put a leash on him and have him sit when he comes out, and then eventually you'll eliminate the leash, right? So you'll put a leash on, have him come out and sit, and then eventually once he gets used to doing that, you can eliminate the leash and see if she can, if he can not bolt out that far because he's that excited. And it is a transition. And also, AJ, the other thing you want to kind of think about is he bolting out because he's excited, or is he bolting out because he like really wants out of the crate? I would be interested in seeing what that looks like, right? It's even though he's a Roddy, it's probably sounds like he's probably just very excited and wants to come out of the crate. But I'd be just double checking that to make sure that it's not because he's worried about being in there. And then so I would put a leash on him, have him come out, sit, and then go on to do your business. And then eventually eliminate that leash because then he'd be used to coming out and sitting instead of running out.
Yeah.
Um,
And Carrie says she has some barking issues due to noise sensitivity, sensitive to what's going on in the neighborhood. That one's a little tougher, and this is the time to work on it, though. Like, if you can actually be home and help your dog, because I'm guessing, since you said sensitive, she's a little worried about what's going on outside. And so, if we have the time at home now, this
Joanne is frozen.
is where we. So, Carrie, there's a couple of people you say you can turn on a TV or a radio. The dogs have such good hearing; they hear through most of that, but it can help. Um, you can also do, kind of your recall stuff. So if she starts barking, you can call her in. Nance, I'm sure you have other
Well,
ideas
one of
too.
the things I found that helps a little bit with if she's anxious or she's sound sensitive, you can definitely consider using a diffuser with some essential oils. That seems to help with some dogs with their noise sensitivity or being able to calm things down a little bit. Or you can use Adaptil in the area where she is, it helps kind of relax them and calm them down a little bit. So that's something you might want to consider with the sound sensitive dogs. And as Joanne stated, it's really hard when they're noise sensitive because a lot of times they hear things before we do, right? So that's why you have to have something constant like um, a diffuser with something or Adaptil, which is always in there, or an Adaptil collar to help kind of calm things down because they can hear things way before we do. And so they're already stressed out or aware of it before we can do anything about it.
Yeah, the other thing that I forgot to mention about noise sensitivity is Purina actually has a new probiotic out. They're the people who make Florazil. No, they make
Fortiflora.
thank you, Fortiflora. They have another one out there called Calming Care. And they've found this new probiotic that is supposed to help with noise sensitivity, and you just sprinkle it on their food every day. You can buy that on Amazon. It's called Calming Care by Purina, and you might want to give that a try and just see if it helps at all. It's kind of a do no harm kind of thing, so you might want to look that up and give it a shot.
And you can get it, I think, on Chewy.com. It's like $45 for a 45-day supply. I started Cha-Cha, my almost 12-year-old dog, on it because she is starting to become a little more sensitive as she's getting older. Her hearing's starting to change, so she's a little bit more worried about dings, especially on my phone. If my phone dings or something, she gets very worried about that. Uh, so not bad, but it just enough that I don't want it to get worse. So I make sure that I give that to her, and it helps. She's not, again, she doesn't worry about a lot, but all of a sudden certain sounds are bothering her some dogs that are really sound sensitive are usually, and that's um, that can be very, that hearing sensitivity or sound sensitivity is genetic. So sometimes it is what it is, but you can help it. You can make it better for them, right? You can make it.
And I recently acquired a border collie that was pretty sound sensitive, and I will tell you, within a week, I noticed the difference of using that. So I really do think it's a good product to try.
Yeah. And Dr. Legitis can be very effective. Yeah. So it's something, those are all things, especially if you have, um, especially those, I feel sorry for those people who live in the city, that their dogs are out and about, there's so much activity now. I've had a few of my clients that live in Chicago tell me how busy the streets are now, and walking the dog now is a lot more stressful because there's so many more people outside walking their dogs. So, um, so the other thing that we wanted to kind of, this is your opportunity to, I enjoy doing tricks, and to me it's all tricks, right? The recall, walking on a leash, and all those other things. Because Joanne and I, when we were talking about doing this workshop, we were really thinking about how to have harmony at home in the situation where there's so many people at home, the dog's active. And I think a lot of people want to keep the dog busy all day. And it's like, yes, you can keep him busier than he's usually, but don't change his habits to the point where the dog, when you go back to work, is going to have some problems. We don't want to have to see you with separation anxiety issues, because that's what happens, right? So you want to be really mindful of how you handle being at home, and understand that while the dogs are happy to have us home, it is still very stressful to have everybody at home every day, all day. In some cases, it can be very, very worrisome for them.
And Calming Care by Purina.
Yeah, calming care. Is there anything that we should be doing now while we're at home to prepare for down the road when we're not home, so that we don't create any percent? Yeah, make sure that the dogs do spend some time, give them a nap time, or give them some downtime during the day. That's really important. Not having them out all the time by you doing stuff. Giving them some downtime in the morning and the afternoon. Have some scheduled downtime for your dogs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if they bark when you put them in a crate, just like a little kid, as long as it's not super stressful and they're just kind of protesting a little bit, it's okay. That's where you can give them that Kong or that bully stick and just sort of let them bark it out for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Hopefully it's not that long, but and then take a nap, right? I know you need to sleep. And if you have a busy dog, really, they don't want to, but they need it. So just like a kid.
Yeah. Nap with them. Not if you want to keep your job there, Amy, because you have to. You actually have to do that work thing every so often, right? So those are kind of things. It's like everybody's talking about things you can do with your dog, and yes, well, if you have the opportunity and the time to do more, but please don't forget to give them the downtime they need to recuperate and rest. Uh, from you being home all day, or working from home, or having, because there's people who are actually working, they have to actually do something at home. Some of them are home not doing anything, so you still have to remember to give the dog some time to some downtime, because I think I see a lot of posts about activities and things you can do, which is great, but you really want to be thoughtful about giving them a break as well. They're not used to the schedule. You want to be a little bit off the normal schedule, but not so far off the normal schedule that they're just not. It's just not going to work, right? They're going to be, and then when you go back to work, because hopefully this will only last for a little bit longer, that we don't have some major problems going on. And then also, if these are the times that you want to kind of think of things to teach your dogs. So a couple of places you can look for stuff to teach them is do more with your dog. You can also do the AKC. They have a lot of lists of tricks and things you can learn and work on if you're up to that, or if you want to do a little bit more to give them that mental stimulation, because you want to make sure you balance mental and physical. Because if you're out there walking your dog, you're just going to build them, have them have more stamina.
Yes.
So you don't want to give them mental too, right? Don't forget about that part. And give them some routine is good evening. It's a new routine this time of togetherness. Yes. So Aaron says giving them some routine is good. And and make sure that you don't, are so wanting to do so much with your dog that when you leave for when you go back to work, it's going to be crazy. Because I bet we're all going to be working a lot more and a lot harder when we do get back to our offices and our jobs. I was just listening to 60 Minutes, and that was a very, that it's going to, once we get back to work, it's going to be, everybody's going to be behind the eight ball on this one. So there's going to be a lot more activity and work, and you might have to put in some long hours. So the dogs are going to go from having you 24/7 and then not, and it's also what your routine is. My dogs are with me all day long at work, but they do nap during the day too. When they're at my facility, they do take a nap, they do sleep, and they do rest there. So that's their normal schedule. But here,
Yep. We're
being home all day,
Yep.
it's a little tougher for them, right?
Yep. See, and my dog's routine is I leave for work during the day and I have somebody come over to let them out midday, but otherwise they're crated all day while I'm gone at work. And then they come to work with me at night. But yeah, so this is one of those where it's different for them. They don't normally have me home very often. But I will say that
You're needy.
they know how to put themselves away. I was joking with Nancy when we were testing this, and I turned my camera and there was Noah just crate door open. He was just taking a nap. So
Yeah.
it helps when they know how to settle down.
Yeah. Well, and Joanne's dogs are very needy, so that's going to be interesting when she goes back to work. Noah's going to need a therapist after that. Oh, Jodine, you're still working. Yeah. Because that's what I mean. It hasn't changed for everyone. Some people have to go to work. It is what it is, right? So their routine doesn't change.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we wanted to kind of impress upon you. Not just to just be able to think about those things and give your dog a little bit of a break, and also give them mental as well as um, physical stimulation. And we are going to come up with more Facebook Lives, and we're doing some lunchtime learning things. We're going to address counter surfing and things like that. So look out for those to keep. We might as well start working on those bad habits if we have any. And you will see Jive helping with the counter surfing because she was very bad at it. So now we're kind of beyond that, but we'll talk about how to take care of that and fix those things. Anybody have any questions before we sign off?
Did everyone put pants on today?
I took a shower. I finally took a shower. All right. Thank you all. We appreciate your time and your interest, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thanks a million.
Thanks, everybody.
Counter surfing. Yeah, I have a lab, or as you saw, I have a lab. The pants.
Yes, the pants.
All right, you guys. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.